What happens? I want to hear what you're going to say. Reverting is a dangerous word to use when talking about the textures, because, so I hope that answered that question. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Andree if you haven't been here before. Hi, welcome. Thank you for coming to my channel. And my video today is a follow-up on the texture release. I've done 2 videos on the texture release already, and you know, the first video answers a lot of questions about what the texture release actually is, what it's for, who it's targeted for, and all of that extra good stuff. The second video was more questions that I had forgotten about, like questions that had just not made it in my mind. Like in my mind, I thought I'd answered everything, and then I thought, no, there's actually more questions that people may want. So that's the part 2, and now part 3 is what happens after the texture release. So this is a question that, again, I repeat in my consultation, but you know, just for the simple fact that the texture release is really a product that many confuse with a keratin treatment, and it's not a keratin treatment. I am going to do a video where I explain what a keratin treatment, Brazilian treatment, and a smoothing treatments are, which is what a texture release is. It's a smoothing treatment, but I just feel like there's a lot of like blurred lines when it comes to that. So this video is answering the question of what happens after you get a texture release. Like, what do I do now? What do I do now? Number 1 question, what do I do after the texture release? So, to be honest, just do what you usually used to do. If you've opted for the natural one, which is where you don't apply any straightening heat, but you do apply blow drying heat, and you leave the salon with a twist out, I suggest you just carry on as you were. The aim of the texture release is to make sure that your hair is easier to manage at home. It's just easier to handle. If you're finding that your hair blow dries really takes a really long time to blow dry, it would take a shorter time to blow dry. I would say by about 40%, but some say that it takes them half the time, some say that it air dries quicker. So it really depends on the individual and the volume of your hair. The density really matters, the texture really matters. A lot of people that have wiry hair may find that their hair still is wiry because it doesn't change the texture of your hair, but it's more for manageability. That's what the texture release is for. So after the texture release, you might find that your hair is growing a little bit faster, your hair's retaining length a little bit more because you've got less, you're able to handle it a little bit better, you're able to blow dry a little bit easier. If you've opted for the versatile, which is when you do 3 to 5 passes and you go home and you find that you want to wear your hair straighter a little bit more, just be very careful that you're not overdoing it with the straightening. Just be very careful that you're not going ham with trying to make your baby hair stay straight. So I'm always like, let go of that whole thing of wanting everything to be straight. It's not that, it's all about manageability. And if you are opted for the straightening, which is when people want to wear their hair straight, also think about what your hair is like. If your hair breaks a lot with like naturally at home without the texture release, then the texture release is not going to protect it from breakage if you're overdoing it with the straightening. So you like, it's not a miracle product, it's an aiding product. So if you think of it more like that, you're more likely going to get the benefits of it. I think that answers that question. The second question that I get a lot is, why is my hair reverting? Now the key word here is reverting. Reverting is a dangerous word to use when talking about the textures, because we didn't relax your hair, we didn't do anything to your hair, we just added a product that is going to aid your hair and make it more manageable. If you program yourself into that, it's not a relaxer, it's not a relaxer, it's not a permanent chemical, it's not a permanent thing, then the word reverting and stuff like that shouldn't come into your mind, because the texture release is in your hair. Once you've done the treatment, the texture release is in your hair. If you have resistant hair, then you might find that there's not much of a difference in when you have a texture release, and maybe the product is not for you. But if you are expecting your hair to stay straight when you go outside and it's raining, you haven't understood what the texture release is about. And I always drum that into the consultation because I want people to be very clear in knowing what they are spending £100+ for. You are going into a treatment that is going to age your hair, and you're going to hear me say that a lot, because no, you're not silly. I'm not trying to belittle what you're saying, but I am trying to make sure that we are clear in knowing that the texture release is not a relaxer in any shape or form. It's not a non-chemical relaxer. A relaxer is a relaxer. A texturizer is a texturizer. The texture release aids hair in making it more manageable. So it's literally about making you more comfortable and helping you be more comfortable. You having your hair at home. That's not what I meant. Doing your hair at home. That's what it's for. So reverting your hair will revert. It's got humidity blocker in there, so it shouldn't revert as quickly, but it will revert. It's not stopping your hair in any way. Your curls should come back eventually. Obviously it rinses out with time, so as it rinses out, if you find that your curls have dropped a little bit, then one, you may be over straightening it, or two, as the product comes out, you will find that your curls will pop back in. You can utilize products such as Olaplex to help keep your curls and keep your hair bonds the same, but the texture release also does that. So it's not an Olaplex treatment at all, but it is a protective product. So I do want to make sure that the word revert is a language that's completely taken out when you're talking about the texture release, because you have to remember that your hair still is natural. It has been chemically enhanced a little bit, but these are non-permanent chemicals. Another question that I get is, how can I tell that the texture release is still on my hair? Now, a lot of the time I say this to my clients is, because the texture release is a spray on product, especially the releasing lotion, if you come every 3-4 months, or if you come quite often for the texture release, we will normally spray the product on your roots, on your next visit, and every other visit to your forehead. Obviously the product will still travel down to your head, but we do not focus on the whole hair just at your second visit, just because we don't want to overload your hair with the product. So I always say it takes about 18 washes, between 15 to 18 washes, depending on you. Now you're gonna know when the texture release is still in your hair, because you're gonna feel it. It's a feeling, like you can tell when it's still in your hair, you can tell when it's leaving your hair, because your hair should start feeling the way it did before you had a product. And do you know what, a lot of my clients, bless them, have had the texture release, and maybe a year in, they're like, you know, I'm finding it really easy to handle my hair, I don't actually need a texture release anymore. Or you start seeing a space in between how many times they get the texture release in a year. So I've had clients who had it 4 or 5 times in a year, and now once a year. And I'm so proud of that, because the whole aim of it for me is manageability. So once I start seeing that my clients are like, yeah, you know, I'm going to do a texture release once a year, I'm going to do a texture release every 6 months, that makes me so happy, because I'm like, you got what the texture release is for, you know what it's about, you understand the product, and the product is working perfectly for you. Now with any product, I always say this to you guys, it may not be for you. It may not be the thing for you. You might not get what you need from it. You might need something stronger. You might need something less stronger. Again, like I always say, and I've repeated in all the videos, the texture release is for African American hair, or should I even say Afro type hair. It's made for us, with us in mind. So you shouldn't have any wild effects from it, unless you're actually allergic to any of the products, which I haven't had a case in the whole time that I've had it. It really is all about working. It's really a product that works with our texture rather than against it. So again, I hope that answers that question. Last question that I have is, can I have a weave of my hair and have a leave out with texture release? You can do whatever you like. You can have rose, you can have a weave, you can have LA weave, you can have bonds, you can have tape, glue in, you can do whatever you like. I just don't suggest you do it all on the same day. Now you can have rows and all of those other stuff that I mentioned, but a full head weave I wouldn't recommend on the same day as a texture release, just because for me it makes the whole process void. If you either you have a texture release or you have a weave, like having both of them at the same time means that you've just spent maybe £200-300 for something that you're not going to see, just to have a sliver of leave out. I don't think it's necessary. So I definitely recommend that you either do a texture release and maybe wait a week or two before you go and get a weave, or vice versa, but like wait till you get your weave taken out. But for me, and how I advertise the texture release in the salon, is to help you wear your hair out more proudly and with manageability. That's how I advertise it, because that's what it did for me. I wore my hair out profusely when I had a texture release. I was loving it. I felt like my hair thrived during the time, and like I said, like the edges of my hair were a little bit straighter, but you know, once it started wearing off, my curls came back and I didn't have any straight bits after that. So it really is about, you know, using low heat at home and not overdoing it with the heat, not overdoing it at all. Like, just let the product be. Let the product do what it's supposed to do and work with it. Don't try to make it into something that it isn't. Don't think you've got a relaxer when you really have a silk press. Like, treat it how you would if you had a silk press. When your hair reverts, let it revert fully. Condition your hair, do as you would. If you are wearing it back to back straight, then do everything that you would do in between to keep your hair healthy, because again, it's here for manageability. And a bonus answer is, when can I color my hair? Now, the texture release definitely strips out all color. If you've just had a black rinse, you're gonna have an orange rinse by the end of the texture release. That's what it does. It rinses and strips out your color. What you do need to do is make sure that you do your color 2 weeks after the texture release. You cannot have a color on the same day as the texture release, especially if you haven't had a patch test, but you definitely can't do that. So the third question that I get is, why does my hair not look the way you do it when I do it at home? And this is probably the funniest question, because I feel like clients expect their hair to look exactly the same. Now, you have to have patience with your hair. I've got 3 tips to help you achieve the same, or at least as close to what you would achieve in the salon. Your blow drying technique is probably wrong if you are just going home using a pick, blow drying your hair willy-nilly. You cannot do that. Section your hair in 6 to 8 sections. Put them away, clip them away, grab a section, pull out the roots, so that you really stretch out your roots. Stretching of the roots is the most important part of the texture release, or any silk press or any press that you're doing at home. Stretching out your roots will make sure that you do not have bouncy roots, and your roots are not puffy, and your roots are dry, and all of that jimmy jazz. So the smaller sections will definitely help you dry your hair better, which will achieve a better silk finish. And the sectioning also, and tucking them into clips, will also hold the moisture while you are blow drying your hair. So if you have a pick, or I don't know what it's called in other countries, but I call it a pick. I used to call it a fork, but that's actually not the name. So just blow dry well. Make sure everything at the roots is nice and smooth. Once you've done that, then again, in those same sections, take a small amount of hair, double tap at the roots, and chase with the comb. Double tap at the roots, chase with the comb. I always suggest that you use anything between 190 to 210. Like, that's the maximum I would use. Now, some straighteners go up in 2s. They might go 180, 200. So 200 is, that's what your straightener does. Mine does 190, 210, 230, 235. So for me personally, if you're going to use high heat, use high heat once, double tap the roots, and then leave it alone, and then wrap it. I wouldn't recommend going over and over it again with high heat, because remember that your hair is still natural, and the more you silk press and the more you straighten your hair, what happens? I want to hear what you're going to say. What happens? You end up with what people call heat trained hair, but you know, your hair will start staying straight. The more you silk press your hair will stay straight for longer, that is. And I mean, for me, heat damage means that your hair is completely damaged and is, you know, falling out, breaking. That to me spells damage. But what people call heat trained, that's going to happen if you straighten your hair a lot when you have natural hair and you're still pressing all the time. So I hope that answered that question. So that's it. I think I've kind of covered all the questions that I get asked, and I hope that this video again is another bit of a helping video for you guys. I hope that you can leave me, I would love to hear what your experiences with texture release or similar smoothing treatments have been. I love to hear people's feedback. I've had an excellent time with texture release, but again, it's one of my most popular treatments in the salon, so I definitely feel like it's worth just putting the information out there. And yeah, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace.